Welcome to Your Property Podcast. I'm Ant Lyons from Your Property Network, co-founder of Your Property Network. I've been doing this for 16 years now. We've literally just celebrated our 16th birthday. So what better time to get an old friend of mine on, and no stranger to the pages of YPN, and we do lots of work with him. So Aran Curry, Aran from the Insight Group, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Anne. Absolute pleasure to be on here. We've been working together probably and contributing to each other's communities for 8 or 9 years. But I think this is the first time I've been on a podcast with you. So really pleased to be here. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you on. So this podcast has come about because you said something to me when we were chatting on a call a few weeks ago, where you sort of casually dropped into the conversation, yeah, my plans are to buy 100 properties over the next 18 months. And I kind of went, oh, like that. And then I sort of rewound and went, that seems like a big number. That's a big goal. And also in a market that, a lot of people are not buying at the moment. There's some real challenges out there with interest rates, changes to taxation, which we've covered in another one of these calls. And so I'm really interested to find out, why that goal, and how are you going to get there? What sort of properties, what sort of structure, and why are you doing this? Because for those people who don't know, you're a portfolio landlord with, I think, 200 properties. Just
a bit over that. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And you're continuing to buy for yourself, for other investors as well. So we are at a point now where a lot of people are exiting the market. We've talked previously, you and I've talked on other recordings as well, that as a landlord right now, you have definitely seen your rent increase significantly over the last couple of years. And if you're a tenant, that's really bad news. And what's also really bad news is there's hardly any rental properties available. It's not just me saying this. I interview thousands of investors, hundreds of investors every month. This is the case. This is real, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The marketplace, and for me, is quite unique. And what I mean by quite unique, the cycles in the property cycle, and for me, this is the best time to buy. I know we'll get into this, but you asked me the question, why 100? Why now? It's the best time to buy, in my opinion, in the last 15, 16 years, since 2009. And there's a number of reasons for that, which we'll get into. But those factors that we're going to get into are, speaking to the point you just made, are making more and more investors leave the market. They're making less rental property be available. You hear stories all the time. We find it as well when our properties are empty, which is so rare these days because people have got nowhere to move to, even if they want to move. But when they're empty, there's 50 people trying to get the same property, or they can't get the property type that they want. For society, for tenants, we're entering a horrendous period, in my opinion, right? For the next 5, 10, maybe 15, 20 years, just a lack of supply. Prices will continue to rise. As a landlord, that's brilliant. I can't, I've got two sides of me. So I really hate what it's doing to society. I think that we desperately got to build more houses and hit those targets. Whoever's in government, I don't think that'll happen personally. Whoever's in government, for many reasons.
They don't have a good track record of building.
They definitely don't. Houses, whichever party again doesn't have a great track record. So, but but the opportunity as a landlord, that therefore is a good one. So, but yeah, shall I walk people through what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what my thoughts are? Would that be useful?
Let's do it. Let's start with that number. Why 100? Just because it's a nice big number?
It is really. And by the way, the 100 for me is the minimum number. The 100's the minimum number. So we've got a little over 200. If my wife was sat here, and Layla, she'd go, why? Why do we need more? We've got plenty already. We're financially free. We've got loads of buy-to-lets, like a lot of those are buy-to-lets, but we've got multi-generational holidays, Sleep 16 up to Sleeps 28, that make us maybe 25, 30 grand a year each. And we've got 14, 15 of those and buying another 6 this year, etc., etc. So she said, why do we need so many more? And for me, it's the opportunity right now. It's, of course, we don't need any more, but it's the opportunity that's in place. I won't be buying 100 in 2026, in 2027, in 2028. I think it'll be another 14, 15 years before we hit this sweet spot that we're in right now. And I wanted to set a big goal. I want to inspire. I educate over 100,000 people a year at all levels. And, if I can go to 100, they can definitely do 10 each. So I'm like, let me do 100, set the goal, set a big goal, go achieve it. And because I can. So that's why 100 needs to be a nice big number.
Okay. And what sort of properties are these? A lot of your portfolio will be made up of, let's use the term, the kind of vanilla buy to let stuff, the kind of traditional terraced or semi house or whatever. But as you just said, you've got, HMOs, you've got service accommodation units, holiday lets. So is this 100 more of the same types of properties following a model, or is it, well, do you know what? I'm just going to go out and chase deals and I'm going to get what I get.
It's a great question. So there's real simple answer here. So generally, when people come and get educated by me, when people are saying, Aran, teach me how to invest in property, what people like, straight talking Yorkshire man, the analogy I'm going to give you is I hunt for property with a sniper gun. So I work out with my sniper gun exactly the town and city I want my properties in, exactly the streets. Depending on the strategy, it'll be different towns and cities, different suburbs, different streets. And then I go find exactly the right property. It meets all my rules. I'm a detailed geek. It meets all my analyzers. We've bought over 1,700 for our clients as well. Those 3-4 bedroom buy-to-lets that people might call vanilla, that basic model. And we're brilliant at that, right? We're brilliant with the sniper gun. However, right now, in this 12 to 18 month period that we're a few months into it now, okay? But this 12 to 18 month period, this for me is scattergun approach, totally different type of approach. And what I mean by scattergun is I'm scattering, looking for the motivated vendor. I always love a motivated vendor. I always love a discount, but if you bind to the right rules and analyzer and with some discount, you get looked after forever. But if I scattergun and find the real motivated vendors, the reason I'm saying it's the best time to buy for 15 months is there's more motivation out there, and the ones that are motivated will take a bigger hit. So to give you a feel, in those 100 deals that we're buying, there's me and a JV partner, in those 100 deals that we're buying, it's either a minimum of 25% discount from market value. So if it's a 200k property, I'm not paying more than 150. If they give me 23% discount, we're not buying it. 20% discount, we're not buying it. So minimum of 25% discount, or it's what we call controlling it now, control now and pay for it later. So that can be a whole mix of strategies. People go, oh, you mean lease options? You mean purchase lease options? You mean it can be lease options. It can be exchange with delayed completion. It can be vendor finance. And again, we won't have time to unpack all these different terms. There's about 62 different ways of doing the deal, right? 62 different ways of setting that up. But basically, where we take control now, and I can give you an example in a little while of a deal or two, but we take control now when we pay for it later. And the beauty of that is that we're getting control of the property, we're able to monetize it and make the money today, but we're paying today's prices in 5, 10, 15 years time, okay? And what that means is I can get in more deals for less money. The average amount of money, and this is maybe the eye-catching thing to some people, and I'm not about get rich quick, but the average amount of money we'll put in each deal is £6,500. So we're getting 100, so it's going to cost us 650k that we're needing to put in. But to make it resonate, if you want to just get 10 of these and follow my blueprint and follow the model, that's only 65k that you need. If you want to get like one of these, it's only 6.5k you need if you learn the skills and everything else. So, and that's what's really exciting me. Very little money in, which is not normally something you hear me shout about a lot, right? And the opportunity to buy at 25% discount. I always shout about discount, but not that level, okay? And then the opportunity to take control of stuff now, pay today's prices in 10 years' time, for me is mind-blowing, and I love that opportunity as well. So yeah, it's that sweet spot. It's that sweet spot that's available right now. Okay,
so I got loads of questions. So the first one was going to be, how are you going to do this and not run out of money? Because, you know, I'm sure you've got a few quid in the bank, but if you were leaving 30 or 40,000 pounds in a deal, doing 100, pretty much anyone would run out of money pretty quickly.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, yeah. So the crux around this is to make sure that you've got a plan, right? Now, actually, because it's only 6,500 a property, and I can unpack that with some deals and give you some examples, but because it's only 6,500 a property, that means it's only 650k. And I know for many people that's still a big number, but we could fund that. But with me and my JV partner, we could fund that. But actually, we're not, right? Because I want to still buy my big multi-generational Hoylettes that need normal deposits. I want to still do my other stuff. So we're actually funding it with JV finance. And again, we've gone to JV partners and we've said, in this market at the moment, you need to pay 7 or 8%, something like that, normally for this kind of deal. They're not getting a share of the deals. They're not getting a share of what's going on, but they're getting interest on their money. And, you know, if you're going to go buy 10, let's say, you're going to go buy 5, what a lot of people miss is, once you've got a bit of experience, you can go to a JV partner and say, I'm only going to pay you 5% interest, but I'll teach you, and you can watch every deal I do. Well, now I'm paying them in interest, and I'm paying them in watching fee, training fee. They're getting to learn how to do that. We needed 2 members of team to buy 100 houses, right? By the way, the work I will personally put in is 2 to 3 hours a month. That's it. If that's going to blow you 100 properties in the next 12 to 18 months, I'll put in 2 to 3 hours a month. I found a JV partner who's got the same level of expertise as me, that's happy to put maybe 5-6 hours a week in, and we've gone and recruited 2 people. But those people, they're probably £40,000 people, but we're paying them $25,000 a year, but they're getting to do 100 deals. They're getting to be involved, cut the deals, negotiate. They're getting trained by my business partner in this. So they're employed by us at 25 grand for a year, and but they're getting training time, if that makes sense. So it's about leveraging. Once you get good at something, you can pay interest to people for borrowing their money, but you can pay training time, just like I can employ somebody. And I think a lot of people miss that, by the way. It's a little side point while we're here, but those of you on here, some of you are on here and you're starting out, or you don't have a lot of money, you know, or you've got, you know, 80 grand or 100 grand or whatever it may be. But some of you business owners that might have 250k that you've got available to invest or more, well, have you considered just employing someone? Go find an expert who's brilliant at this already, pay them, you know, for 20 hours a week, 20 grand. So it's like they're on 40 grand a year, but pay them 20 grand a year for part-time and have them build your portfolio. That's surely far better than you pause, procrastinate, watch 400 videos of me and Anne, watch every webinar we've ever produced, right? But buy no deals. Right? I'd rather you stop watching me, and might not, but stop watching me and go buy some deals, right? Go get in the game and get on with it. So if you're going to do that yourself, ace, or employ someone else to do it, but do not be sat here, right, by the end of 2025 going, I remember Aran and Ant having that chat, and Aaron's gone and bought 100 now and I've bought none, because it's such an amazing sweet spot. So that was a long answer to your question, but it's a mixture of I can put my own money in, but we're actually be your own banking the money in. That's what I call it, raising money from other people, paying them a fixed rate of return for the money.
Okay, and some of those, with some of those kind of no or little money left in deals when you refinance, or are they more on the sort of creative end of the spectrum in terms of low money in from day one, or a combination of the two?
Yeah, can I give a couple of examples? Would that be
please do,
yeah. So, right. I don't really, when we get a deal at 25% discount, right, I'm a little bit unhappy. And that might sound really weird, but if we're buying it today with a discount, we got to put the deposit down to buy it today. So now we're putting money into the deal, and that's more than 6.5 grand a deal, right? We're putting deposits in. So about 20% of the stock that we're buying, we will buy today. We will put our deposits down and we will buy those properties today, okay? Now, I can't cover every single type of deal, But one of the deals that I love at the moment is vendor finance. Okay. So what is vendor finance? Just to make sure we're on the same page and talking about the same thing, right? If you can find a vendor in their 60s or 70s who's got a buy to let, that buy to let might be doing perfectly okay, right? But they have had enough, right? They've heard about the EPC changes that may never happen, but will happen sometime. They've heard about electrical checks. They hate the rights to reside. They hate the tax changes, right? And when my ears prick up when I find out the property's unencumbered. That means they've got no mortgage. So they've got this 250k property, for example, with no mortgage on it, okay? So the conversation I'll always have with them, I'll say, well, why are you selling? We've had enough. Okay, great. What are you going to do with the 250k when you've sold the house? And they'll say, do you know what? We're in our 60s and 70s. We're not going to do anything with it. We're going to slip it in the bank. We've done investing. We've done everything we want to do. It's just going to sit in the bank. We'll die. Don't, but we'll die. The kids will inherit it, right? And I said to them, well, what will you get in the bank? And they might say, well, 4%. And the listeners listening in right now, you may or may not be aware, but base rate is predicted by economists that I know and trust a lot by the end of 2025 to be down to about 3.4, 3.5, right? And by 2027 to be down at about the 2% mark again. If you Savills have predicted 2027 at 1.75, IMF have predicted 2.5, 2.25, right? Let's say 3 to be cautious, right? So 3% base rate back down. That's mind blowing, right? When the base rate starts dropping, everyone's piling back in the market. But when the base rate starts dropping, that's why I'm buying now, by the way, everyone piling back in. But when the base rate starts dropping, here's the issue for that vendor that just sold their house and put the money in the bank. They're not going to get 4% on savings anymore. It's going to go to 3 to 2 to 1. So I point that out to them. I say, you're only going to earn 2 or 1% long term. Are you still going to leave it in the bank? They go, yeah, we're going to die in the next 15 years. We're going to just leave it in the bank. So perfect. Great. Why don't you, instead of putting it in the bank, let's do this. This £250,000 house that I'm going to buy from you, why don't you, seller, vendor, lend me the money to buy it? And they go, well, what do you mean? I say, instead of me going and getting a mortgage, you lend me the £250,000 and I will buy the house off you. I will then have a mortgage, but the mortgage won't be with HSBC. It won't be with the mortgage works. It will be with you as the vendor. And I will pay you 5% a month for the next 15 years interest on that mortgage. So you'll get more than you get in the bank. If I don't pay you, you got the house anyway, you just repossess it and sell it to someone else. And if I do pay you, you'll be happy and I'll be happy. And they say, well, why would you be happy? I say, because I don't have to put a deposit down now. If I get a buy to let, I have to put a 25% deposit down. If I do this with you and you lend me all of it, I'm putting no deposit down. My only cost will be my solicitor's fees. Do you know what? I'm so happy to do this. I'll pay your solicitor's fees as well. And I'll have to pay the stamp duty in this example. Now, some vendors will go, yes. Some vendors will say, I like this idea. This is really great. But I want you to have some skin in the game. Can you put 10 grand down or 20 grand down? And I'll fight for that to be as little as possible. They might want it to be higher. But you know, let's say we end up negotiating that I have to put 5 grand down, right? So they're lending me 245k. Now, at least I've got some skin in the game. I'm more likely to keep paying them. And in that example, right, the vendor wins and you win because you learned a new skill. You got a new skill in your tool belt, right? And in that example, we've put a 5k deposit down. We've paid the solicitors for both sides. Let's say that's 3k. It's a bit less. And we're paying stamp duty in that example. That might be, I don't know, 8k or whatever. So I'm putting 13, 14 in that. I don't love that either. But I'm not putting a 25% deposit down. Lots of the viewers, you're putting £62,500 down deposit, plus the stamp, plus. I'm in that deal. I've got it. I can refinance it when I want. But I've also got it at 5%, 245k borrowed for as long as we want. So we're doing deals like that all the time. So you're buying with 25% deposit. In that example, we've bought it still, but they've provided the money, but we're the legal owners, we've bought it. But 80% of our deals, Anne, will be what I call control now, pay later. So I'll give you another example deal. This is one we're just negotiating on right now, and it may or may not come off. So 70% chance of it happening, but it's an example that's fresh to mind. We've got a vendor who's, and I'm going to move the numbers a little bit just so it's not personal to an individual. But we've got a lender with a £3.2 million portfolio, mainly London-based, a couple of HMOs, some buy-to-lets in there, and a couple of properties up in the north, right? So they got up this portfolio, and for the last 15 years, when the base rate was low, they've been making really good money out of it, okay? The interest rates have gone up, and those interest rates have squeezed their cash flow. It's about cash flow neutral now. So they're working hard on it. It's cash flow neutral. Now, this individual is employed in a job. I won't say the job, but they're making, let's say, 55, 60K a year, okay? So 55, 60K a year pays their bills. They live off that. But they've now got a cash flow neutral portfolio. But here's the problem. They set up this portfolio. They bought this portfolio in their own name in the old days. So now it's making them no profit, but because of Section 24 taxes, and me and Ant are doing another podcast, you can go watch that podcast to learn more about the impact of that and the opportunity in that. But because of those taxes, this landlord now is getting charged about £20,000 in tax every year by the HMRC, even though the portfolio makes them no money. Well, if you're on a job earning 55K a year, what's that? 3.5K a month take home, maybe 3, something like that. And now you're having to pay 20K a year in tax from that employed income. That's a lot of financial pressure, right? And they've got to a tipping point. They're like, we can't afford our life anymore. We can't afford the portfolio anymore. Massive sleepless nights, massive stress, don't know what to do. They freeze for a while, a few months pass. They're now in total panic, right? And now they think, well, should we sell? But if they put them up for sale, what will happen? Tenants might move out. The cash flow gets even worse. Or tenants go, well, they're selling, so I'm gonna stop paying the rent because they're selling it anyway. Cash flow gets even worse, right? And they've got this. And then if you do put it up for sale in this market at the moment, it might take you 3-4 months to sell it, or 5 or 6 months. Then 33% of sales are falling through. That's an estate agent stat, not mine. 1 in 3 sales fall through. So it might take you 3-4 months. 1 in 3 sell through of the 9, so 3 at least will sell through. That's another 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months. You're a year on and you're still trying to sell some of these, right? And your finances are in a total disaster. So we sat down with them and said, listen, what are you actually after? They said, I need away from the pain. We said, well, here's what we'll do. We'll pay you full market value. You don't have to worry about the tenants. We'll pay you the full 3.2 million. They went, well, that's amazing. We said, but we're going to give it to you in 12 years' time. We started with 12, they got us to 10. We're going to give you it in 10 years' time. They went, right, but you can walk away today. We'll take over the properties today. We'll pay the solicitor's fees on this. In effect, what we're doing is taking a purchase lease option. We've got the option to purchase it later on for £3.2 million, but we take control now. Now, we actually know that with a few of the properties, we can monetize them. We can put different strategies in play. Maybe a buy-to-let becomes a service accommodation. Maybe one of those units can be another HMO. We can push the rents up on them all. Within a year to 18 months, they'll be cash flow positive and covering the taxes anyway. In fact, more than that. And we'll also put it into a limited company structure as we deal with it and move it. So for us, it's a win. For us, there's no issue there. And when we actually come to buy it, if property prices in the UK double on average every 8 to 10 years, let's say 3.2 million, it's worth 6 million in 10 or 12 years' time, but we're only paying 3.2 million for it then. We'll be able to go to the bank and borrow 4.5 million from the bank, pay him off, and still have £1 million between me and my JV partner, and still have £1.5 million in equity at that time. So that's an example. Now, that's a bigger example. That might scare some people off, but I could have given you an example of an individual deal where we're doing that, and it's costing us maybe £3,000 for the solicitors and a couple of grand of stamp duty, and we've got control. And some of them are 5-year, but normally 10 to 15 years we're putting on these types of deals where we pay for it later. So I know we've gone into the detail there, but
and what percentage of the deals that you're buying are kind of, let's say, at this creative end of things, and how many? What percentage would be a kind of buy, refurb, force the appreciation, and then refinance?
Yeah, it's a great question. So of the 100 ants, because of the level of skill we've got, I think 80% will be control now, pay later type things. 20% will be minimum 25% discount, and we buy it now. So some of those vendor finance deals, by the way, we're getting 25% discount, and then they're lending us the money to buy it, even though we're getting a 25% discount. So it's probably 80-20. For people listening in, right, some people will sit there and go, this all sounds a bit more complicated than I'm ready to deal with, or this sounds a bit more. And what I'd encourage you to do, and it is a bit more complex. This control now, pay later stuff is not normally a year one strategy I teach people. If you're learning from me, I'll say, let's learn that in year 2 or year 3, get financially free first, then use it. But it's the best time in 15 years to buy. And that window's going to go in the next 12 to 18 months. So with my students right now, my top end students, I'm going, you got to learn this. You got to learn this and use some of this now. But let's say you're not going to. I'm buying off-market deals. We've got a whole different structure. We don't have time to cover here, but of finding these motivated vendors and finding them. But your other option is to go on market, again, learn the skills to do it, but look on market. And you should be getting a minimum 15% discount when it's on market. If it's on Rightmove, if it's up for sale on the market, right? If it's on, that's what I mean by on market, it's for sale now. You can't get quite as big a discount because the vendors already had their expectations set of the money they're going to get. They've already started spending that money. The estate agent said I could get 150k. I've started spending 150k. So I offer 120. That's a big problem for them now because they were already spending the 150 for their next house. So it's harder, but you need to be targeting 15% with on-market deals as well. Absolute minimum 15% discount. Yeah.
Okay. And can you give some tips for communicating that via estate agents? Because, it's not always that easy to get them to kind of reset a vendor's expectations. Some of them seem to be in the market of doing that anyway, of just listing a property and then, we'll drop it after 2 months. And,
Totally get that. Yeah, totally get that. By the way, and I don't know how this works, and I've got a webinar where I cover this in a lot more detail. And I'm sure Ant will be happy somewhere. He'll put a link or send you an email, or he'll let you get access so you can flesh this out a bit more if we're going a bit quickly, and you can rinse and repeat and rewind, etc. But in terms of dealing with estate agents, if I've got a room of 100 people, which I often have, and I say, listen, put your hand up if you love estate agents, right? And there's about 2 or 3 hands go up, right? And I'm like, pulling my hair out. That's why I've gotten on, right? I'm like, you need to love estate agents. And people are like, what the heck do you mean? They're hard to deal with this, right? I'm like, do you know how easy it is? You go on Rightmove on a night. How did that property get on there? They went and found it. They persuaded the vendor to use them. They even put it on a piece of software for you so you could see it. And you could just sit at home and they found you all these deals to look at. They're a gift from the universe, right? So if you started to think that in reality, how would you treat them? Would you treat them any differently, right? That's the first thing I'd say. Now, the extension of that is, Anna just asked, how do I deal with that agent? How do I put an offer in that's too low? It starts, believe it or not, by having empathy for the estate agent. Have you thought this through, right? If in that example, 150k property, you want to offer 120, right? The estate agent 3 weeks ago went and sat in that vendor's front room. They wanted to win the business. There was 2 other estate agents going round. They looked them in the eye and they said to them, I'm the estate agent you should use. I'm brilliant at my job. I'm the best in the area and I'll get you 150. You should use me. And the vendors thought about it. They've met the other 2. They've gone, I'm going to trust this person. They've shaken hands with them and they've gone, I'm going to use you. I trust you. You're going to get me 150. And now they've also started spending 150. Whether they're upsizing, they've started looking at the next house up. They're going to be able to buy if it sells for that. If they've got debts to pay off in their head, they're already paying them off. And if they're downsizing, they're clearing debts or going on dream holiday, etc. And you then come in with an offer at 120, that's a big problem, right? Here's why it's a problem, because the estate agent now has to ring them up 3 weeks later and go, I looked you in the eye and promised you 150, you should take 120. It's never going to happen. They're not going to do it. So what we do, we ring. The first thing that must happen when you ring that estate agent is you must be able to speak to the negotiator who's going to negotiate on the deal. Normally, who answers the phone at the estate agent? The apprentice, the junior, the receptionist, right? I will always say, can I speak to the person that will put this offer forward? Who is that? That is John, that is Sarah. Great, can I speak to them? They're not available right now. I'll wait. Which property is it for? This one. We've already had an offer. I'll still wait. Well, they might accept the offer. I'll still wait. There's no point. Via the receptionist, your offer will never get accepted, ever. Because they'll turn around when John or Sarah come back in the office. They'll go, we've had some idiot on the phone. You'll never guess it, on Raleigh Street. They've offered 120. They're never going to take that, are they? And Sarah or John will go, no, they're not. And Sarah and John will ring up Mr. and Mrs. Smith and they'll go, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you're not going to want to take this. I'm obliged to put the offer forward because by my standards, I have to do that. But you're not going to want to take it. It's a stupid offer. You're not going to like it. But I'm just telling you because I've got to. It's 120. Guess what Mr. and Mrs. Smith said to that? Yeah, you're right. I don't want to take it. So we want to speak to the negotiator. When we get to speak to the negotiator, this is what you do, right? There is enough money to be made in property without ripping anyone off. Please catch that. You can do this ethically. You don't have to rip anyone off. So when I speak to Sarah or John, what I'm saying to them, I'm saying, listen, Sarah and John, this house is up for sale at 150 on Raleigh Street. I think you've priced it well. I think if the vendors are happy to wait for the next 3 or 4 months, they will sell it for what you've priced it at. And that's exactly what they should do. Okay. But I'm a professional investor and I'm always looking for a good price. If they want speed or they want certainty or they want both, I'll come back to those 2 words in a minute. If they want speed or they want certainty or they want both, I am the person they should sell to. Let me explain why. And John and Sarah at this point will normally be going, well, what's your offer? What's your offer? What's your offer? Okay. My tip to you is if you're putting your offer in before they're screaming at you, well, what's your offer? You've put it in too soon, right? And what you need to do is have empathy. And you need to be saying, I think it's the right price. I think you've priced it correctly. I think they can sell it for that. But if they want speed or certainty, I can get it completed quickly in the next month or so. And if they want certainty, no, it's a done deal. I'll get it done. A vendor will never, ever sell for discount unless they want speed or they want certainty or they want both. If I'm happy to wait for 9 months to sell it, no need to take discount. If I'm happy to be uncertain while I wait to find out what I sell it for, no need for discount. But a lot of people like certainty, a lot of people like speed. And that's where I'm pitching my offers. They'll put the offer in, I'll get a lot of slaps. I offer without viewing houses. I never view the houses. We put 100 offers in, we get slapped 99 times. The other one goes, maybe we'll take a discount. That's the one I'm going to go view. What's the point of viewing a house where they won't take a discount? So I've talked for a while there, Ant, but hopefully that explains.
I think it's really useful. It's really useful. I think it's an area where a lot of people come unstuck and get nervous and don't know what to say. And so it's really insightful, really useful to actually just talk through that process. Because hey, let's be honest, we're embarrassed when we put in offers quite often, aren't we?
Absolutely, it's cool. And it's about having a script. You need to have an offer script. Literally, the beauty is you put your offering on the phone normally. You can have a script in front of you. You can literally read the words, and you can get good at it by practicing it first, and then you feel more confident, and you'll get more wins. You'll get more wins. Yeah.
Okay. And I just wanted to ask, I'm conscious of time, your sort of buying criteria in terms of cash flow for the properties, what does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So this is back to where we started. Remember the sniper gun versus the scatter gun. So the sniper gun, it's got to meet certain rules. It's got to meet certain criteria. It's got to work on the spreadsheet. It's all got to stack. With the scatter gun, I'm looking for a motivated seller. If I get a deal with a 25% discount that's cash flow negative, I'll put it back up for sale with a 10% discount and sell it on and make a profit. With that level of discount, you can always make a profit, right? So I'm less fussy about what I buy. It doesn't have to meet my rules and my analyzer, right? Of course, I make sure it's not going to cost me a load of money along the way, but I make sure that it's going to, be something that makes me some money, but I'm going to be less fussy because with that level of discount, I can refinance and get all my equity back out, or if I've bought it at that level, or if it's a control now, pay later, as long as I'm making some money along the way, I'm going to make a load of money at the end. So I'm less fussy. So we might pick up a Tesco superstore that's being sold, commercial premise. We might pick up an HMO. We might pick up an old pub. We might pick up a buy-to-let. Which my sniper clients will go, he's gone crazy. He's gone nuts. What's he doing? He's always buying to his rules, right? But because the discount's so big, you can do that. And there's enough money to be made out of the deal. But what you must learn, I mean, we've done half an hour, 40 minutes here. You've got to learn the framework for this. You've got to learn the more you have in your tool belt, the more ways to help the vendor. And you're going to find this bizarre, Anne, but for me, our job is to help vendors. Someone shouldn't sell to you a property if it's not a win for them as well. And people go, 25% discount, how can that be a win? There's so many examples where it is. Getting paid later, how can that be a win? Well, until I talk to you about that person with that tax problem, you go, no way. But now there's a win there. They win as well as us. And our job is to solve their problem. If we can solve their problem so they win and we win, That's beautiful. So you've got to learn about that tool belt. You've got to learn then to monetize as best you can. So what are the cash flow strategies? What will work here? Is it a social housing project? Is it a property we can turn into an HMO? Is it an SA we can sell? And all that sounds complex, but it's a step at a time. There's a whole framework for this. If your viewers want that, as I said, we can give them access to that webinar or a recording of it, and they can watch through it and understand this framework that we're using. There's a blueprint that we're following to buy these 100 houses. You've got to systemize this stuff. You've got to set it up so I believe so it works without you. That's what a true business is, so that this will happen whether I'm chatting to you, whether I'm with the kids, which I'm going to be shortly, whatever I'm doing, these properties are still getting bought in the background.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really easy, wouldn't it, for any one individual to say, I'm going to buy 100 houses, and then, life gets in the way, and, we're busy people, and you get distracted by something else. And so without making it somebody else's job to go out and do that, I'm guessing if this was down to you to go out and buy 100 houses, it may not happen because you'd be off doing other things.
You've got to cut out time in the diary. I mean, it's just mandatory. If this is a must for you, you've got to put time in the diary. Like you put time in the diary to eat. People say, I'm super busy, but you manage to eat. I'm super busy, but you manage to sleep. You're super busy, but you don't manage to get financially free. I mean, it's pretty darn important. I know sleeping and eating is more important, but it's right up there as far as I'm concerned. If it's not for you, cool. But if it is right up there, you've got to carve the time out. But yeah, if we're doing 100, remember, 2 full-time members of the team to get that done. So that's 80 hours a week to do 100, right? So if you're going to put in 1 hour a week, right, then that might be 2, right? If you're going to put in 5 hours a week, you might be able to do 7 or 8. We normally say, if you get good at it, you can go get it done. The final thing I'll say on this is, right, when you work with someone who's brilliant at something, they'll have a recipe. They'll have a recipe, right? Mo Farah, winning Olympic gold twice, had a recipe for how to be an amazing runner. Ronaldo or Beckham with their free kicks had a recipe for how to make great free kicks. Me and Anne have got recipes for how to invest really well. And here's the challenge. Let's say there's 10 steps to make a cake, right? Or 10 ingredients, right, to make a cake. And if you're comfortable, which many of our listeners will be, you've done all right in life, you're comfortable at home, you're comfortable at work, your spouse is okay, your kids are okay, you're living a comfortable life. Yes, you'd like a little bit more, but you're comfortable, right? It doesn't become a must. So then someone like me or Ant goes, these are the 10 steps. And you go, well, I'll do step 1 and 2. I'm comfortable with those. Step 3, that's a bit uncomfortable. I won't do that. I'll do number 4 and 5. Putting offers in is a bit uncomfortable. I won't do that as well. I'll send an email. And step 6, 7, 8, I'm comfortable with. Step 9, I'm uncomfortable. If you try and make a cake and you miss out 3 ingredients, what do you get? You get a splodge. You get a splodge. I love a hungry student because I go, here's the 10 steps. And guess what they do? They do them all with precision in the order I've shown them because they're hungry and they want to get to the outcome. A comfortable student is a problem. So reflecting on yourself and going, am I actually comfortable? Is that the problem? Because I'm not making it a must and I'm missing bits of the recipe. And none of this is scary stuff. But you just need to learn to do it properly and then to implement it. So again, a long answer, so I apologize. I'm really aware of time, but you've got to commit some time. I normally say if you can give 3 hours a week, you can get this done as long as you're consistent with it. And if you can give 5 hours a week, you can definitely get it done. And I believe passionately, virtually everyone can find 5 hours a week. Get off Facebook, get off the TV, get up an hour earlier for a year. You'll find a way. There's a way. Change your habits. You'll find a way, most people.
Okay. I mean, brilliant advice there at the end. I think it's very easy to get too comfortable. And, definitely when I was starting out, the kind of the need to do it, the need to make it work, the fear factor, all of those things were real driving focuses for me. And it's definitely easy if you're kind of earning good money, got a quite nice life and stuff like that, to say, well, I don't really need to do this, and it would be a nice to, but I don't have to. And that it's difficult. It's difficult to make the step from that position to actually making this a real priority.
It is, and every individual has to decide their own musts. Maybe your relationship's just average, right? I want you to have a world-class relationship. Maybe that's your must for this year. Maybe your kids are your must for this year. Maybe your career is your must for this year. But I'd encourage people not to play it. If you're watching lots of webinars, if you're watching these podcasts, it's because you're seriously interested, right? But the difference between success and not getting success is quite marginal. But it starts with people. If I'm working with someone, like, let's just make it a must. Just make it a must for 5 hours a week for 6 months for me, and you'll be amazed what you get done. And once the roundabout starts moving, we all know it. Do you remember that analogy, right? Do you remember being a child back in the playground, right? And you were the last one to the roundabout. All your mates had jumped on and you got to flip and push it. So now you're trying to get the roundabout going, your property investing journey this time, but the roundabout going, and it's such hard work. And eventually you manage to get it going. It starts moving around, right? And you get to jump on with your friends and enjoy the ride, right? When the roundabout slows down, you have to do all the work again. No, you just put a little leg off, you give a couple of kicks, and the roundabout keeps going, keeps whizzing round. A couple of kicks, keeps going. And in property, what too many people do, they binge watch a load of webinars or do some learning, but then they do nothing for 3 or 4 weeks. The roundabout stopped. So now it's a load of work to get going again. Then the roundabout stops. So for me, it's put something in that's achievable consistently, like going to the gym. And many of you might not know, but Ant owns gyms, right? It's about going to the gym. If you're consistent for half an hour a day or 3 times a week for half an hour, that's far better than trying to do 3 hours once a week, right? Just be consistent and keep going, right? So, and that's what will pay off. So find an amount of time you can commit to. You do learning time first, then you do action time, and learning times action is what equals results. You get the results then.
Okay, brilliant. We were going to be on this. We were going to do a 20-minute podcast, weren't we? But no, there's so much content in there. It's genuinely insightful. It's really interesting and motivating to hear you talk. You know, it always is. You know, I love chatting, and you know, we wish you the absolute best on this journey as well. This kind of 100 property journey. It'll be really interesting to catch up maybe in 6 months' time and see where are you. You know, what hiccups have you had along the way? Because there will be hiccups. There always are. So.
Yeah, there will indeed. Yeah, no, I look forward to that. I look forward to that and sharing the progress. And my hope is that you're inspired by watching this. You've heard what I'm doing. Your number doesn't need to be 100. And people go, well, it's all right for you. You've already got a lot. So that's going to be, just start with the next one. Just get one more, right? Start with the next one. It's a step at a time. And you'll get the momentum. And once you've got the momentum, it's amazing how this starts to roll for you. So I hope we've inspired some of you and that you make those next steps. Really do.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aran. We're going to make sure that there are links to some of the resources that Aran's talked about in here as well. And thanks for coming on, sharing your story, you know, and your plans for the next 18 months. We wish you all the luck of it and look forward to catching up with you again soon. Thanks for listening to the podcast. And we look forward to chatting to you on the next ones of these. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anne. Really appreciate you having me. Thank you. See you all soon.